Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
This is Dr. Richard Barwell, and welcome to our webinar on Neurologically Based Chiropractic, where neuroscience and innate meet. A nice combination. Let's get on with it. Knowledge changes over time, and this is an important fact that we need to deal with within this profession, that knowledge has changed, and we need to change along with that knowledge. So once we thought the world was flat, and then over time we learned the world was round. Once we thought that disease was in the blood, and over time we learned that bleeding someone didn't cure a disease. Matter of fact, it killed more of them than it helped. But we learned this over time. Once we thought that germs caused disease, over time we learned that it was a failure of our immune system that produced germ-oriented disease. So this is just some examples of what happens with knowledge and how it changes our culture. Once chiropractors thought that misaligned vertebrae were the key to disease. They said that vertebral subluxation was the cause of disease. Well, over time we learned that chiropractic is something much greater than a straight and mobile spine, that there was something else that was going on that was bigger than just a straight spine. Once chiropractors were thought of as back doctors, and unfortunately today that's still the case. But we know something now, and we need to get this out to the rest of the profession. Over time, we've learned that chiropractic is brain therapy. That's a huge shift that we need to have happen within this profession. Today, the field of neuroscience tells the story. Today, it's time for this new chiropractic conversation. And if we don't change the conversation, this profession is in serious trouble. The research over the last 10 years in the field of neuroscience has exploded our knowledge of the role of the nervous system in both health and disease. It's not just in chiropractic. This is throughout the healthcare professions. The field of neuroscience is shifting the consciousness of health professions across the globe. Neuroscience has also provided the missing link for the chiropractic profession's effectiveness in improving the body's ability to remain healthy. We were so stuck on that concept of bone on nerve at the intervertebral foramen as causing nerve interference that was never really we were never able to defend that correctly. And we never had that link that moved it to the next level. We had to stand on that, and even with that we couldn't prove that we were doing outside of the fact that we got results. But neuroscience today has provided that missing link that allows this profession to move drastically into a better position. There's some basic fundamental truths that we just need to talk about. And the basic fundamental truth is this: health is more than no symptoms. The World Health Organization has been talking about this forever. For as long as I've been in chiropractic, we've always known that health was more than no symptoms. That's a fundamental truth. That the nervous system is involved in the ability to be healthy. That's another fundamental truth that we need to focus on. That people under regular chiropractic care are healthier. You don't have to be in practice for very long that you start to recognize that people who have been under regular care are healthier than the general public. That people get less colds and less flus, and if they get them, they recover much quicker, especially if they've come in and gotten some care. We see that going on in the practices around the world all the time. There was a friend of mine who was a medical doctor in British Columbia, and the British Columbia Medical Association did some research. They wanted to compare the children of chiropractors with the general public as to office visits or hospital visits to see if what we said was true about kids under care. And when I asked him how they were going with the research, he gave me this little smile that sort of said, and he told me this flat out, he said, "You'll never know." And of course the reason we'll never know is because they found out it was exactly the truth, but they couldn't afford to have that being published. We know that this is a fundamental truth. The adjustment doesn't always involve cavitation of the spinal joint. It's another fundamental truth that we need to own up to. That even when you're a manual adjuster and you go to do an adjustment and you don't get that cavitation sound, but the person gets up and says, "That feels better, doc," that's something we need to recognize, that that's a fundamental truth in chiropractic. Often patients have improvement in functions in areas that had nothing to do with the presenting complaint. That goes on all the time. But we need to recognize those things and not just play it down. We need to say, wow, look what this has done for you. That's not why you came in. Look what's happened. The story of chiropractic miracles continue even with the structural shift that happened in the profession. When this profession started out, they focused on that nerve root, but they were talking about the effect of chiropractic on the nervous system. And that's what they presented. And there was miracles that we've heard the stories from the old practitioners of people being carried in and running out of the office because they're feeling great and asthma disappearing, you name it. And those miracles still continue. And you cannot get a group of chiropractors together that they don't start talking about some fantastic thing that happened in their office under somebody with chiropractic care. So they continue. The miracles continue out there, and meanwhile, our discussion and our conversations have still been back on joint pain and pain reduction and better movement, so on. Something is missing in our conversations. Insurance coverage has restricted the scope of practice of chiropractic. Not only has it shifted the scope, but it's also put us into a position where we are now in big trouble because it forced us to use medical codes to cover chiropractic care that fit into physical therapy codes. And it's restricted us to back pain, neck pain care profession. We've lost our unique position in the alternative healthcare. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we no longer hold the position of the leaders in alternative healthcare to medicine. We don't even get rated anymore. There's tons of other things to get rated, and the reason is we've moved more and more into that mainstream medicine, but not at the top of the heap. We're being moved to the bottom of the heap. This is a big challenge for us. Today, there's documented knowledge that is available that supports chiropractic's ability to alter central nervous system function. I'm going to share some of that with you today. This is not a guesswork anymore. This isn't statements we can't back up. Today, we need to make fundamental statements to our patients and to the world that that's who we are, that's what chiropractic does. It alters central nervous system function. And the more we focus on the structural concepts, the closer we get to physical therapy. Boy, something happened yesterday, and I know that they're on the line listening today, but something happened yesterday that I want to share with you about that statement I just made. Here it is. The more we focus on the structural concepts, the closer we get to physical therapy. This is from a student at Logan College yesterday, February the 3rd. He said this: sitting here learning from an MD this morning who is an orthopedic surgeon for the Cardinals and is moving into a position at Logan's clinics very soon. He said, pretty cool what Logan is doing now, teaching you some of the post-op rehab, and not to mention you can add some things to their program that other physical therapists can't. If that doesn't tell you where they put chiropractic, then you're not paying attention. He went on to tell me again today that he mentioned 3 or 4 times calling chiropractors physical therapists. The entire class should have had the courage to get up and walk out, because that just put us down below. And I'll tell you what, they'll put us below the physical therapist, so that you will be working under physical therapist. That's what's going to happen. These are some fundamental truths that we need to be paying attention to, and we need to take a stand. But we can't take a stand on old knowledge. So it starts here. And what you've heard me, if you've heard me before, you'll hear this again. It starts with this concept. There are 3 primary systems of the body. There's the passive system, the bones and joints that do nothing on their own. They provide structure, attachment points, and potential for movement. That's where the profession has been focused for the last 50 years, on the passive system that does nothing on its own. The next part is the active system. That's the muscles. They provide the power for movement, but that movement includes all body actions: excretion, respiration, elimination, circulation, you name it. It's all driven by muscle activity. But they don't do anything on their own either, thank goodness, because if they didn't, it'd be the ice cream in the forehead. Now this may sound extremely simple, and it is. It is that simple. And this is a dialogue you need to be using in your office, and this is the concepts for your office to be able to move it from an old concept of the passive system being the primary system to the control system where it is that we really do our stuff. The control system is the central organizing authority. It controls function, defense, recovery, healing, metabolism. That's the area where Innate is, that's the home of Innate. But it needs that central organizing authority to coordinate this. You have to remember that every cell has an innate system. Every organ has an innate system. Every system has an innate system. But they all need to be coordinated, and that's what the job of the central organizing authority is to coordinate all that information so that Innate can express itself at its highest level of potential. If there's interference or challenges within that control system, the innate expression is hampered. So here's what neuroscience has revealed. It's revealed that what we thought was the cause, the vertebral subluxation, is really just a symptom of a problem in the master control system. The abnormal control system activities create abnormal muscle activity. Abnormal muscle activities in the body's system, being digestive, elimination, excretion, reproduction, cardiovascular, respiration, and or the skeletal system and its movement, will lead to a breakdown in health. And not only that, because we are a closed loop system, anytime any one of those gets out of balance, it starts to affect the others, and it starts to then multiply its effect. So, but it all comes from abnormal control system activities that can't keep things in balance. The control system also works directly with the immune and endocrine systems. So any nervous system disruption will affect the ability of the coordinated innate expression on every level of the body functions. That's where it all comes together, and that's why we need to link innate with the nervous system, because the nervous system carries the messages of innate. And if the nervous system is compromised, then the innate expression is compromised. Research has now shown that the chiropractic adjustment directly improves the control system. Directly. Improved control system function allows for improved expression of our innate. Let's stop all this great philosophical go-around discussions that we see on some of these Facebook sites that get ridiculous and then get nasty when we just start to recognize it's very simple, the proof is in. We can have our philosophy, we can have our science, and they meet together. And that was the whole idea of neurologically based chiropractic. We can bring it all together and stop this rest of this nonsense that goes on out there. We're all on the same team, and we need to be fighting for our survival against being included as the lowest rung of medicine. This new knowledge explains why all the different chiropractic techniques get results. There is no question that the different techniques are effective. They all are effective. They're just more effective if they're used appropriately. And sometimes you have to change your technique for the demands that are being placed on that particular individual system. But it also explains something else. It explains the miracle stories that the rest of that scientific medical profession can never understand, how somebody can come in and have asthma disappear because they got an adjustment. It's because we improved the innate expression in the body by improving the neurological function. And that body was able to then do what it needed to do. It all fits, and we can defend this now based on the latest information coming out of science. We beat them at their own game. And we've been waiting for this for a long time. And it always amazes me that when I deal with this profession, this is my 50th year in chiropractic. My 50th year. I'm looking forward to going back to my 50th reunion. But I've been looking for this information from the time I got interested in chiropractic many, many years ago. Looking for something that could support what I knew was going on that was greater than just correcting a vertebral subluxation. It's here. And this is what started it all. This is an EEG of a person's brain looking at cortical activity, and we're looking at left and right hemispheres. Okay? And all you need to do is see this. Here's the pre-adjustment. Here's 20 minutes after an adjustment, same person. And we know, based on what's been done in research in EEG studies, that the one on the right is a much healthier functioning cortex than the one on the left. We know because of the organization of the patterns and the expression of the various frequencies. That's the power of chiropractic. That's why chiropractic works. It's nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that the technique you used did this, if you do it right. Here's another one. This is a person who's had multiple concussions, and you can see that the left and right hemispheres don't look the same, that there are some challenges in there, there's missing spots. This person gets an adjustment, and this is what happens. Now you can see there's still some challenges, but it's way better, and this is why this person loves chiropractic. It's also why he became a chiropractor. There's still work that needs to be done in here, but we now can see what's going on, and we have some way of being able to say what kind of care does this person need, what does he best respond to. We can test it pre and post, we can test it live time. Here's the 3 papers that are put out. Mine was the first one that was put out in 2004 to show that the effect of the chiropractic adjustment on brainwave patterns is measured by EEG. There was a follow-up paper that came out from Taylor and Murphy out of New Zealand, and it's a much better paper. It takes my concepts and did what you're supposed to do with this. They did a wonderful job on this. The second paper came out showing that it does change brain function. That's important to have the 2 papers. But now we've got another paper that came out of Japan that absolutely is just amazing. Cerebral metabolic changes in men after chiropractic spinal manipulation for neck pain. One chiropractor, and if you'll notice that all the rest of them are MDs or PhDs and PhDs. And what they did with PET scans is they showed specific areas of the brain and how those specific areas of the brain improved their function after chiropractic adjustments to the neck. Phenomenal stuff. The papers are in, it's over. The arguments, the discussions are over. It's a done deal. Chiropractic is brain therapy. That's all there is to it. And you need to get your office in line with what's going on in this profession for the potential of the future. So the effects of this new knowledge, research now supports the power of the chiropractic adjustment to improve the control system of the body. This knowledge has elevated the value of chiropractic from spinal care to improve central nervous system function. Now, we were right from the beginning. We just had the wrong application to it. Once we got the new knowledge, we were able to change the application and went, oh, it's not at the nerve root, it's at the central nervous system level. But the most important thing is about the elevation of the value of chiropractic. We're no longer back doctors or spine doctors or pain doctors. We are now doctors of the central nervous system. When Dr. Carrick talks about being functional neurologists, that's who we are. That's what we do. That's our rightful place. The only change is that the new knowledge has moved the cause of the health challenges from spinal misalignments, the old concept of vertebral subluxation, to brain disorders. Now, I'm not saying that vertebral subluxations don't exist, but they exist as a symptom of something wrong within the central nervous system. And they provide an access way for us to be able to stimulate the central nervous system in order to get things to change. That's the only thing that's happened here. And I know there's people out there that think that, oh my God, if we take chiropractic away from vertebral subluxations, we've lost all of our ground. Baloney. Vertebral subluxation concepts of cause is what's been killing us for years. We need to get past this, and we need to get past this because we've had this philosophical position for the last 25 years and been arguing about it. No, we need to be open to some new concepts. And I want to talk about the concepts and applications of neurologically based chiropractic into practice, because this is where it's great to get this and say, oh, this is good stuff, I love this, but when you walk back into your office and you go like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I want to talk about what happens at this point. And I want to talk about the challenges and deal with the challenges that people have about bringing neurologically based chiropractic into their practice. The first thing I want to show you is this. We call this thing the biochart. You may have seen this before or not. Now, this came from the world leaders in EEG studies and work, Siegfried Optimer, Susan Optimer, and David Kaiser. And they produced this incredible article on the generalized approach to neuroregulation. And I looked at this and I went, boy, I read their article and I said, oh, there is so much in here that we use that we don't even realize we're using. So we created this little form, and it says this: please check all symptoms you've ever had, even if they do not seem to be related to your current problem, and check the box where you fit on the chart. Your doctor will then be able to recommend, now get this, what type of care you need to achieve balance. Where are your loved ones? So this thing turned out to be something that we used all the way along in our in our history report, and didn't realize that we had neurological overtones. So if you have a balanced nervous system, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to explain this to you in a minute. I'll come back to this chart in a minute. The biochart report does this. It allows the patient to identify their health challenge as being neurological in nature. And so when they check these things off, they come up with either they have an over-aroused nervous system that's hyperactive, high blood pressure, etc., or they have an under-aroused, hypoactive system, low blood pressure, or it's unstable, and that fluctuates between an over and an under-aroused, could be on an hourly or daily or a weekly or a monthly level. It becomes unstable. It's also called bipolar. Or it has an exhausted nervous system, which is beyond the over-aroused state to the nervous system that is now literally burned out. It's damaged to the point where the immune system is saying, I can't depend on the information you're giving me, so the immune system starts to operate on its own, and it considers everything else to be, every other function of the body to be an enemy, and starts attacking itself. So let's go back to this chart. So what happens is you have people that either check off a bunch over here, irritable bowel, high blood pressure, anxiety, heart palpitations, cold hands, cold feet. That would be a system of over-aroused. Or they have low blood pressure, depression, low energy, constipations, all sorts of challenges over here. That would be under-aroused. If they check off some in each, you're going to find they're going to start checking some in the middle. And the minute we get that, now we move to that unstable where it goes back and forth. And if you end up with any of these guys down here, you recognize these. These are all autoimmune system disorders. And autoimmune system disorders are exponentially out of control worldwide today, because we live under so much stress that our systems are literally exhausted. And people are developing ALS and fibromyalgia and multiple sclerosis left, right, and center. And those are autoimmune system disorders. Now, the interesting thing about this was on our intake form in our history, at chiropractic colleges, you had a little area that said, have you ever had any of the following? And people would check off all of these kind of things. Well, they didn't realize, and we didn't realize, until I read this article saying those are very important symptoms to help be able to classify where people are. So it comes to this. When people fill this thing out, it's very easy then to say, well, tell me, do you think it's more important that we get rid of your signs and your symptoms, or that we focus on getting your nervous system back into a balanced state? Which do you think would be most beneficial for you? The answer is obvious. And as my friend said, that's a leading question, and my answer was, that's the kind of questions that leaders ask. Because you have to lead these people to some new ways of thinking. It's critical for new ways of thinking. So once they do that, once they understand that, you can say, what about your family? What about your kids? Can you find them on here? Why don't you take this home and get them to fill it out? Because I'm going to make a suggestion to you that if you see that you have people that you love that are now in trouble with their nervous system out of balance, I suggest you get them in so we can check and find out just what's going on with them and get to them before this becomes permanent damage. That's the power of this. And what it does is it shifts people from pain, signs, and symptoms to an intent of neurological care. You got that? The intent of care changes from fixing the pain to correcting the nervous system function. So the intent of your care now goes beyond symptom relief. I hope everybody understands the power of that. You notice I talked about what types of care people need. What do you mean any different types of care? There's several different types of care we need to consider. So initial crisis care, ICC. The presenting complaint of the individual needs to be heard and addressed. And this is a symptom-based care. And that's what we've all been trained to do. We've been trained medically to say, where does it hurt, Mrs. Brown? And we need to hear what their complaints are, and we need to acknowledge that we heard those. It's very important. The next thing is initial neurostabilization care, INCS. This is cause-based care. And the reason I talk about this is care beyond symptom relief, and it's focused on improving neurological function. This means that people are going to stay under care even though the symptoms have gone, because their intent has changed. We can use objective measurements of cortical and limbic system function to justify this care. So there are neurophysiological examinations and measurements that we can use now to show people that they have problems in this area, and that's what we're fixing. Then the last type of care is peak performance care, and this is wellness care updated. This is care that specifically focuses on areas of neurological dysfunction. Let's get into this a little more. So the initial crisis care, remember symptom-based care, the majority of new patients you get right now are going to fall into this category. And the goal is to offer them relief plus something in greater value. They want to know that, can I get my relief? And you can say, yes, we can help you with that, but we can even offer you something better. We can deal with what's causing you this discomfort. And that is a much better position to be in. Patients need new information, however, to support a new direction in health thinking. So if your conversation is still based on the old conversation of bad joints and pressure on nerves, that's not going to get them to where you need to get them with dealing with their nervous system, because they don't make that connection. You need to have dialogue that absolutely has changed the intent of the care, and that's the power of that biochart that moves them into a whole new concept of who you are and what you have to offer. This is called informed consent, and I learned this the hard way. I learned that by talking to people before I ever started anything and explaining exactly what their choices were and what the outcomes of those choices were going to be, then I had patients then enroll into that decision. They made the decision of what they wanted to do based on the information that they didn't know before, that I gave them new information that allowed them to make new decisions. And it's called informed consent. And my PVA started going up and up and up to the point where when I quit practice, my PVA was 180. And I didn't do it over one small session. It was done over a year's basis. So I took my number of new patients and divided that into my number of regular patient visits over a full year, and it was 180. That's a whole different practice than I ever had experienced when I was just dealing with initial crisis care in my office and thought I was doing such a great job getting rid of people's pain. You want to see miracles? You start seeing people in higher PVAs like that. It's amazing what starts to happen. Informed consent creates compliance in your practice. When you're dealing with patients that have information and make decisions on that new information, and they make the decision to stay under care, your compliance goes off the end of the board. Types of care, let's talk about initial neurostabilization care. This is the people that you get past that initial crisis care that only want pain relief. And it's cause-based care. And you can do this very simply. This is where you present the biochart and then the three systems of the body, and you ask the patients which care that they think would be the best approach. See, you've provided them with new information. You gave them the choice to make an informed decision based on something of higher value, and guess what? The vast majority of people are going to say, I want the one of greater value. And that's going to move your practice. Not everybody will want this type of care. Some will still only want symptom relief. And what happens with this is that's fine. You get a choice. You can offer that level of care, that initial crisis care, without any expectation of them remaining under care past symptom relief. And that's one of the biggest challenges in practice today. We have one level of expectation. The patient has another level of expectation. They just want to get pain relief. You want them to stay on for a lifetime. And you get very frustrated when they get the results and they leave, they don't come back, and then you pester the heck out of them with the front desk saying, call that person, get them back in here, send them monthly things to remind them to come back in. They don't want to come back in because they don't want to buy something that they didn't want to buy. So if they're going to say they only want symptom relief, you might as well know that up front. And you might as well deal with them on that level, knowing full well that they're going to come in until the symptoms are gone, and away they go. Now what happens, and what happened to me in this, is I started to do this. I started to get, and I got more and more people that wanted that at neural stabilization-based care, coming in and staying under care longer to the point where, gee, I didn't have room to take those people that only wanted to deal with pain. So I sent them to my associates and let them work with it. And their job was to see if they can slowly but surely start building their practices up to get neural stabilization care patients as well. But it took the stress off of me, it took the stress off the office when I realized that we had to have an alignment of the intent of care between the patient's expectations and the doctor's expectations. Changed my practice completely. And this little gem right here can help you in your practice. Stop expecting things that aren't going to happen. Performance care, peak performance care, this is wellness taken to the next level. And this care is specifically focused on areas of neurological dysfunction. So this level of care is for patients who have moved beyond stabilization care. We can see the changes now in their nervous system. Everything is moving along. They're feeling better. Their symptoms have disappeared or reduced much earlier. And you can see there, because you're doing some tests on these people to show that their nervous system is improving. Neurological patterns show the improvement, but there may be some areas that are still not working right. Maybe their hand temperatures are still cold. And so you can really focus, shift your focus to patterns that are still challenged. And then you start getting them to strive for the ideal neurological responses across the board, whether it's cortical function or some part of the limbic system responses, or whatever it may be. It may even be you have to do some dynamic muscle changing and exercises to rebuild muscles that have gotten into bad patterns. But now you can really focus on that, and that's now the expectation is we're working on that area to get it back into balance. That's peak performance care or wellness care updated. So how do we know this stuff? How do we know their neurological systems are out of balance? Well, here's some things you can use. You can do this in your examination. Blood pressure, bilateral blood pressure, folks. Bilateral. It should be exactly the same. If not, you've got a problem. Brainwave patterns, that's cortical activity. Neurological adaptability, how they adapt to stress and recover, whether they recover correctly or not, which is a key factor in our health. Recovery is the key issue here. We're all going to have stress. How do we recover from it? Dynamic SEMG work, skin conductance, bilateral weight scales, simple. There's a wonderful, I just found it, and I'll get some information on that, but there's a wonderful bilateral scale thing now that they've got out that is just great. You buy it as a complete unit. I just saw it yesterday. Eye tracking, heart rate, hand temperatures, respiration rate, balance board. There's all sorts of things that you can start to do in your office that's truly a neurologically based exam that's going to give you information of value, not orthopedic tests. That's not going to tell you what's going on with their nervous system. As a matter of fact, the orthopedic tests, most of them don't have any value anyway. But there's a lot of this you can start to incorporate into your office. Hand temperature is very simple. I mean, just take the person's hand. Now, judging that your hand should be working right and your hand should be nice and warm, if their hands are cold, you've got information going on right now. Okay? So, neurophysiological activity measurements. Well, we can look at EEG and we can see brainwave patterns, and that's a 99% reproducibility. It's very, very sound. We can see what's going on with brainwave patterns. Limbic system responses, now don't panic everybody. Limbic system responses are just your autonomics. It's your sympathetic, parasympathetic balance that you took when you were at chiropractic college. You just didn't think you were ever going to use them. Well, now we find out they're critical. And we know what the ideal ranges on these limbic system responses are. Heart rate should be 56 to 66 beats a minute. That's the ideal range, not the average. Why would you want to be average when you can be ideal? Respiration should be 6 to 12 breaths a minute. Heart rate variability, great information from heart rate variability on the different frequency responses. Sweat glands, 0.8 to 1.5 microseconds of electrical conductivity. Thermal activity, we also have this in Celsius, but we know 93.9 to 96.8. Hand temperatures, that's extremities, that's what we should be able to see. SEMG should be 0.5 to 2.5 volts at the traps. Blood pressure, we can do bilateral blood pressure, bilateral weight scales, and even postural examinations. Posture is a dysphonetic picture of your nervous system. It shows you the imbalances in the active system and how it's distorting the skeletal system. but it's all neurologically based. And so if you do a posture examination, that's fine, but you got to understand that what you're looking at is an abnormal functioning nervous system that has adapted to a stressor and has not recovered. See, there's the key. It has not recovered. That's when we start to see those vertebral subluxation things coming into play. So we developed this. My biggest frustration was when we were developing all this and I was looking at all these, the neurologically based chiropractic, I said we still need to have objective measurements somehow of all of these things. And that's when we developed the stress response evaluation. I developed the NeuroInfiniti, the software program that gives you the opportunity to take this into your office and provide objective findings that will stand up no matter who's looking at them. It's a 15-minute dynamic computerized test designed for neurologically based chiropractic offices. The added benefits from it, your office can also offer bio and neurofeedback, training programs to help patients bring their nervous systems into more ideal responses. People will pay for bio and neurofeedback training sessions. This is an income center. But here's the thing about this. When you start doing this, this will help your patients toward things such as lowered blood pressure, weight control, pain reduction, reduced muscle tension, and reduced heart rate, improved sleep patterns, clearer thinking, better digestion, improved nervous system function, improved endocrine responses. All of these things happen. Why? Because we can see a picture of our nervous system's malfunction, focus our types of care directly for that particular individual, and lay out a care plan that suits them that's going to help do all this. If you have a weight reduction clinic and you're not doing this kind of stuff, you're missing the major factor that's involved. What's the major factor involved in weight? Stress responses. Stress responses. And so we need to be able to show people that we've got something additional rather than just doing nutrition or counseling or diet for that particular individual. We can do something that's on a much bigger scale for them along with that, and it leads to better overall health. So here we are. We've just gone through what's going on in the profession, the challenges we've had, and we run to this. And we get this all the time. Dee Dee and I, Carrie Ann, all of us that are involved in this, Dr. Applin, Dr. Merrick, all of us that are involved in neurologically based chiropractic. If you didn't know, this is a movement now. Say this, we get phone calls all the time and say, I love this neurologically based stuff, this is great stuff, but, and it's these buts that we need to deal with. And most of it, we've got to get people off of their butts so that we can do something about it. And here's what we hear. I'm challenged by explaining it to patients, it taking too much time, not knowing how to transition my practice. Oh, I'm challenged by it's something new. It changes my concept of chiropractic. I'm challenged by I don't understand the report. I'm challenged by I don't want to be different. I'm challenged by the cough, and I want cost, and I want to address each of these and just show you exactly what's going on here and how you deal with these things, because a lot of this stuff, it just doesn't hold water at all. So explaining it to patients. The vast majority of DCs have a belief that they're focused on the nervous system. I ask chiropractors around the world, what system of care is the primary, what system, pardon me, in the body is the primary system of care in your office? What is your intent? And they all say the nervous system. And yet the public sees us as back doctors involved in pain relief. And the reason is our explanations that we've been using today, yesterday and today, are in need of a serious update, because what happened is our belief system doesn't match our conversation, and our conversation is what drives the patients to think that that's what we do. And I've been watching this ridiculous discussion going on one of the Facebook sites saying, well, vertebral subluxation has been our defense for years, we need to stick with it. It doesn't hold water. It's been shown that it is not the factor. Why would you stick with something, it's sort of like, well, the Model A was a good car, so I'm sticking with the Model A no matter what. And that's the kind of logic that's going on there. It's not like we're abandoning our philosophy. It's just that we need to update our conversation. So today, everyone is well aware that there's a relationship between stress their nervous system and health. They've just never attached it to anything that we do. What does chiropractic have to do with stress, the nervous system, and health? I thought chiropractic was just about back pain. Well, we need to change that. The only explanation needed is what the adjustment actually does, beyond moving a vertebra if you're doing manual work. That was the key factor in my evolution of being a manual adjuster, vertebral subluxation-based chiropractor, to all of a sudden looking at neurologically based chiropractic. And it's when we did the research to find out exactly what the adjustment did, it changed my entire life. It changed how I looked at chiropractic. It changed how I administered chiropractic. When I realized that we were focused on the vertebral subluxation, not focused on the adjustment and the power of the adjustment, once we changed and looked at the power of the adjustment, it changed everything. It changed the game. And we need to be focused on the adjustment. The adjustment stimulates a change in how the patient's nervous system deals with their stress in their life. It's that simple. You just go A to B to C and it's done. Nicole Pushner down in South Africa said this: where patients originally just came in for some type of relief, they ended up realizing there's far more going on, and all the other symptoms that they didn't know the cause of are understood and can now be dealt with. You think that that didn't change her practice? It changed her practice considerably. Tell me what you think would be a greater practice to work in. Somebody that only deals in pain relief and listens to people complain and disappears after 4 or 5 visits, or somebody who has patients that do this, going like, wow, I understand what this does and how it can help the rest of my challenges. Here's the next one. It takes too much time. It doesn't take the doctor any time at all. The staff does the testing, the bio and neurofeedback training. So the doctor, it's no more time. Matter of fact, we can reduce the doctor's time taken in things like consultations and history and examinations, because we can remove them from that entirely. Doctors, if you are not spending the majority of your time adjusting patients, you're wasting your ability in the office. You're the only person that can do the adjustments. Why would you be doing other things? The exam can be done in less than 15 minutes. You can do a narrative report. The doctor can do a narrative report that takes about 2 minutes because of the software that we have created to be able to give a narrative. And neurofeedback can be done without the doctor in attendance. You train the staff to do it. They can be doing it in your office when you're out playing golf. And they can be generating an income for you when you're not even there. The report to the patient, and this is one of the things we get, well, I see the report to the patient takes an hour. If you're taking an hour to do a report of findings to a patient, you're giving them a healthcare class. You give a healthcare class to a class. One person is not a class. One person is one person. And so you should be able to do the report in under 10 minutes. I had my reports down to about 8 minutes. I did also put on a healthcare class. And that healthcare class provided new information for new directions in my office. So this takes too much time. You can't stand on that. It doesn't exist. It takes probably, we can trim down your time in your office with new patients and still give you viable. I mean, we've got people that say, well, it takes me 5 minutes with a new patient to do an exam. What kind of an exam is that? What information are you getting on that? Would that stand up in court as an exam? I don't think so. And we need to be asking ourselves those kind of questions. I'm not sure how to transition my practice. Hey, it's 3 simple steps. 3 simple steps to transition. Step 1, ask your patients what type of care they think is most effective. Care that just relieves their symptoms or care that addresses the cause of their problem? Duh. And when they say care that addresses the cause, great. Next step, then explain the 3 systems of the body. So where does their problem lie? Okay, you can use the biochart and the 3 systems of the body. And after they say the nervous system, say exactly. And in this office, we focus on your nervous system, not your symptoms. This office deals with improving your nervous system function. Stops the questions of where does it hurt today or gee doc, it's still aching. Step 3, you start with your next new patient. You don't go in and change the whole office around. You start with your next new patient. You can have some fun with old patients, and you can ask them that question up top, and here's what happens. Some old patients may not want to switch from what you've been doing, and some others may not. Some may want to come over, some may not. But if those that don't want to change, you have to honor the method you set up with those who are not interested in change, because that was your agreement. So if you dealt with those people on pain, and they're going to wait till they come in till they're in pain, and you accepted them on that basis, you're stuck with them. And I can guarantee you this, that once you get your office changed over to a neurological based practice, and people coming in talking about, I want my nervous system improved, I'm not feeling great, versus the person that comes in saying, oh, it's still hurting down the leg on the right side, those people drive you crazy after a while. And it's just a reminder to say, I don't ever want to go back to my old dialogue. These 3 steps are the simplest way to start in your office. And I challenge those of you that are not doing this in your office right now to start talking to your old patients with asking them that first question, and see how many of them say, gee, I want to address the cause of my problem. And now you're going to be caught flat-footed because you don't have the dialogue to go. It's time for you to do something. Something new is much easier than you think. There's really only one part of neurologically based chiropractic that's new. This is about your brainwave patterns. Everything else you learned in neurology, I just got to take your brain cells out, dust them off a little bit, and get you back up to speed on what the autonomic nervous system really does and how it responds. We have PowerPoint programs recorded so you can train at home, plus great support team, a fantastic support team that will walk you through any challenges. It changes my concept of chiropractic. Oh dear. 99.9% of chiropractors I've spoken with agree that the nervous system is their primary focus of chiropractic care. It's just that their dialogue doesn't support it, or their examination, or their care. All this does is bring congruency between your belief, your examination, your report, and the intent of your care. How does it get better than that? You want to be excited going into the office? That's it. Finally, we can bring our talk and our walk together. We can talk about Innate and the nervous system. Neurologically based chiropractic and the NeuroInfiniti bring all 3 into chiropractic practice. Are you addressing the cause or the effect in your practice? You need to ask yourself that. And if you're addressing the effect with vertebral subluxation, it's time for you to catch up. The future is now, and you're already late. Using the NeuroInfiniti has helped me change my way my patients think about health, and has helped me to fulfill my role as their doctor. Practice has never been better. Brian Jensen, DC. And if anybody down here knows Brian, he is the most honest, straightforward guy you would ever want to meet. His practice has just been revolutionized in his concept. He went back into practice when he wasn't going to go. When he saw what was going on here, he rejoined practice. He is part of our team. Not understanding the report. Well, this is the big one. They look at all those colored bars and they say it looks too confusing. Well, really, there's only 2 basic sets of bars. There's the solid color bars and there's the gray bars. And if you'll notice, the solid color bars are the same pattern in every one of these charts. It's the light blue, the green, the dark blue, and the pink. The light blue, the green, the dark blue, and the pink. And it just tells us about what those are. The stressors are this. The stressors are, the light blue is eyes open, the green is a math test or cognitive challenge, the blue is an emotional challenge, and the pink is a physical challenge. And then we have recovery in the grays from all of these. So we can see what happens in, this is the limbic system, and this is the brainwave activity on both hemispheres. This is the part you have to learn. All the rest of this you learn. What happens when you get under stress to the heart rate? Gee, sympathetics kick in, the heart rate should go up, and then it should come down when the parasympathetics, the grays, kick into place. And so this is just a refresher. This is something you have to learn. We can teach you that in very short order. So here's on the right, here's an ideal chart. This is what it should look like, and this is how simple this is. On the left is an actual recording of a stress response evaluation that a patient's gone through. I want you to look to the right, and I want you to look at the brainwave patterns left and right. You can see they're exactly the same. Now look at this one. All of a sudden, the left hemisphere doesn't look like the right hemisphere. Look at this. This is severe problems in this left hemisphere. That's not the way it should look. So automatically we know that there's something wrong with the cortex and the patterns of this person. And then we can look down at the limbic system responses and say what's going on. Look at the heart rate. See, it's within the normals, and it goes up when it's challenged and down in recovery. You notice this? It goes slightly above, but it doesn't go up and down. Look at the heart rate variability. This is the ideal pattern. Person's got problems with heart rate variability. That's sympathetic, parasympathetic control. Look at respiration. Should go up during challenges and down during recovery. It's way above, and it's just crazy. And we can see now whether this nervous system is functioning right or not. This is objective outcome studies. These are accepted norms. We know that this is good data. Being different. The rule of business says this. If you will get a diminishing return on your investment as the market becomes saturated. If your unique selling position is no longer unique, your market is saturated. You're dealing in back pain, the market is saturated. Physical therapists, oh, you name it. Physical medicine, massage therapists that we created, chiropractors out there that everybody's talking the same thing, want to deal with back pain. The market is saturated. You're getting a diminishing return. That the profession is in big trouble. We see it. We know what's going on. It's because we gave away our power. Nothing else. If your scope of practice is limited to back pain relief, you've eliminated your practice potential. You've narrowed your scope of practice to the point where your market is saturated. If your only saving grace is to attend motivational seminars regularly, you're already burned out. You're not getting the joy out of the practice you should. You know you're under stress, so you go and get your pump to come back to try to offset the negatives that are going on in your practice and in the profession. The future lies in those daring to be leaders. You have to step out of this challenge. You have to be prepared to move into something new that offers a better potential. The people that are doing this, we get the letters all the time. Oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. I'm so excited to go to the office. I'm having more fun in the office than I've had in years. This is chiropractic. I just wish the rest of the profession could get it. And I think Dr. Rob Dorn is on today. Maybe I'll get a chance in the end to say something. He said this, my experience has been great. I have no regrets. Many new patients that come in are amazed by the technology, especially when you can tell them what's going on in their life without even knowing them. The costs, this is the elephant in the room. Chiropractors have this weird idea about spending money on their practice. They see it all as costs. They don't ever see it as investments. They see it as cost. And they think that $20,000, $15,000 is a huge expense. Meanwhile, they're driving $45,000 cars around. Well, I have to tell you this. Cost versus an investment, the car is a cost. It's an expense without any return. An investment is an expense that generates income in your office. I know of doctors that every year budget money out of their income to invest into instrumentation in their office to further their office. Every year they set aside money as an investment to improve the value of their practice. The majority of chiropractors don't even have that consideration. They think that spending money on a piece of equipment that can earn them money in their office is a cost. It's not. Another question we get is purchase or lease. The best method is to purchase, even if that means getting a bank loan. The reason is lease fees tend to be higher than bank rates. Okay. But here, there's something going on today, and I do hope I'm talking to the group that has this. You know, your credit rating is the most valuable thing you have in business. And if you've let your credit rating slip, you're in big trouble. You have to protect that at all costs. Today is a very rare time and a rare opportunity that doesn't come along very often. If you have Class A plus credit rating, we can offer you 0% interest on a lease, but only if you protected your credit rating. And if you haven't protected it, your lease rates are going to go up, and that's going to make things more and more expensive. But here's the bottom line on this. 2 exams a month. If you're doing 2 stress response evaluations a month, it'll cover the lease payment. You know, the biggest thing is you can't just do this and not put it into your office and start doing this. This takes, you get the unit and you start using it. And that's when it starts to generate changes in your practice. The pricing we have depends on the unit type. You can contact Dee Dee at Dee Dee Van Riper at DeeDee@NeuroInfiniti.com. This is our phone number, 1-877 233-0022, or you can contact me at Dr. Barwell at NeuroInfiniti, and this is my phone number. And here's the things. We can talk to you about what prices are available and depending on what units you want, because there are different models on this. And we are prepared to give you references of DCs that are using this in their practice, and Dee Dee can give you somebody in your area or somebody you can speak to, maybe doing your specific technique that you can talk to. We have such a great family of NBC NeuroInfiniti doctors that are all willing to jump in and help and talk to one another and share with one another, that it makes us just a unique group. So I have this. Neurologically based chiropractic, where neuroscience and innate meet. I hope you got that message of how it comes together. And this new knowledge is bringing the power back to the profession. We need to get this profession back on track or we're going to lose it. It's already underway, but we can turn it around. You need to take a look at this. You need to tell other people that you've listened to this, and they need to get on board and listen to these as well. They are available. You need to change the conversation in your practice today. Don't wait. When you go back into your office, just start talking to people about, wow, I just heard this information on research about how chiropractic changes brain function. And guess what? What I've been doing to you, and the reason we're getting results, is because chiropractic is making your brain work more efficiently. That's what I do. You'd be surprised how much power there is into that. Dee Dee, is there anybody that wants to make any comments? I think we have 5 minutes or so left.
If you have any questions for Dr. Barwell, or if you are a client and would like to say something on behalf of your practice or yourself or your experience, raise your hand in the control panel and I'll be happy to unmute you. If you do not have a headset, just type in your question. I'll be happy to read it for you. The first question is, will we get a printout of the presentation today? I really would like to get the links. What we've done is we have recorded this webinar, so I will be able to send a recording out to everyone who participated. So the answer to that question is yes. I also can send the references with the articles and also the information Dr. Barwell mentioned about the scales. Any other questions? One second, Dr. Barwell.
Okay.
Is that you, Dr. Carden? I unmuted somebody named RC.
If that's Dr. Carden, he's doing amazing work with this in his office.
Actually, it's not.
Amazing work.
It's not, because the question is, what do you recommend we charge per exam? That totally depends on your area. The range is between like 125 and 195 on the initial exam. Follow-up exams between 95 and 125. And the reason I say depends on your area is we have clients in small towns in Alabama and we have clients in downtown Manhattan. So absolutely that's going to warrant what you would charge. What I can do is put you in touch with other doctors in your area and find out what they're charging. Let's see.
I know people are typing in. I can hear you typing, so
yeah, that's me giving the answers back.
Okay.
A comment says, awesome presentation. It was good information. Thank you for that.
Thank you. We have some wonderful things going on out there at the various colleges. In spite of what's going on at Logan with what you heard, we have a Neuro Club and we have some great guidance going on in Logan. It's getting things started. Just absolutely amazing. These students, don't sell them short. Boy, they're coming out with some new ideas of chiropractic and this under their belt. They're going to set the world on fire. We have Neuro Clubs at Parker. We have Neuro Clubs at Life. I do believe there's a Neuro Club at Palmer. And I know that they're probably going to get one started in some of the other schools. Oh, there's one down in Los Angeles as well.
That's correct.
And even in touch. You'd be amazed at how the students want this information. So for those of you in the field out there in practice, if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind.
And Dr. Barwell, we have a shout out from Corey and Sean with the DC tree saying great job.
Oh, DC tree, that's something you need to be looking at. These guys have done something absolutely incredible with DC tree. You'll be hearing about it It's a Facebook site that is just extraordinary and great work, you guys. I'm behind you 100%, whatever I can do to help.
All right. Are there any more questions or comments?
I think we're done.
All right. It typically will take me about 24 to 48 hours to get the recording rendered, uploaded, and posted to our website. But as soon as it does, I'll get the link out, and we will be in touch with everybody on if you have any further questions. Dr. Camille Hebert is saying thank you. Love to hear it again. Dr. Hebert, I'll get that recording to you as soon as I can.
Super.
All right. Bye for now.